mindfulness is the awareness that arises when we intentionally pay attention. When I say intentionally, if supposing Sonia is speaking and I'm just hearing her and I'm just nodding, that is not being aware of what she's speaking. It's when we intentionally pay attention in a kind, open way and it is also relating, it's a practice and a way of relating to life. So like the pigeon who was surrounded by noise, there was a lot of noise from the waterfall, but she still maintained her calm. I think that is actually a reflection of what mindfulness can be. We need to be responsive in a situation, not reactive. So, in other words, we have to say no to negative thinking and negative thoughts as well when it comes to mindfulness, especially when we are, or when all of you are in an environment that requires immense patience, immense tolerance and compassion. Mindfulness is very, very important. And moving on to how will it be if we don't have mindfulness in our lives? We will be more stressed, we will be more anxious, and at the same time with mindfulness, we are able to stay clear away from negative thinking and better engagement with the world. The benefits of mindfulness is that, like I mentioned earlier, it reduces stress, anxiety, and even pain, it has been noticed. Depression, not of course all depression, the severe ones require psychiatric help or psychologist help. Insomnia, and it's known to even reduce blood pressure too, when we are able to practice mindfulness. So how can it improve our physical health? The first one it will be enabling us to sleep better. It also decreases, from the professional side, it decreases a job burnout, and it helps us to have a better span of attention. So when you talk about mindfulness, you can say it is focused attention to the internal and external experiences, more aware of the present. And it creates an emotional self-awareness, creates awareness also regarding negative emotions. Now, if we are to talk about, let's just say, how can we practice mindfulness? The first thing would be is focusing, I would say, is focusing on what you eat. Now, the reason is, I personally believe we are what we eat. So in other words, if you are more conscious, now I'm not asking you to stay away from junk, stay away from snacks, no. Definitely, or in moderation, it's perfectly fine. But as much as possible, focusing on healthy food habits. Of course, it's no guarantee in terms of whether you will or fall ill or not. That is not in our control. But leading a healthy lifestyle is one of the first steps. So in other words, paying attention to what you eat, living in that moment. You know, in our lives, we may always come across people who may not be our well-wishers, correct? It's not about how good we are. Many years ago, I used to think that when we always do good, people will definitely like us. Doing good is our choice. We have to remember that. We are not doing good so that others will like us, or others will appreciate us, or others will admire us. No. It is about who we are. So what we need to remember is, we may not have well-wishers all the time around us, but the focus needs to be that we, as much as possible, interact more with people who are our well-wishers. So in our life, we may have people who don't wish us well, but we are forced to interact with. So my suggestion is, limit the interactions with them, limit the expectations from them. One of the ways I would suggest that we all can practice mindfulness and in a structured manner would be through a body scan meditation. How many of you meditate in this room?
Vicky, your camera on, madam. How many of you meditate? Meditation ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ practice ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? Maybe weekly or daily, whatever.
Daily 2 times.
Daily 2 times. Okay, we have 2 people saying they practice on a daily basis. Anyone else practicing meditation? I think most others are unaware of meditation and probably don't have the time or the
Correct. I understand. And one of the ways that we can practice simple meditation is by sitting comfortably. For example, where we are sitting on a high back chair, sit straight, leaning back, and with our legs and our hands stretched out, closing eyes and concentrating on every part of the body, starting from the top of the head till the tips of the toes. So it's basically conducting a certain mind scan, which will enable us to kind of notice how we are feeling with regard to all our the physical feelings that we may be getting from the scan is also giving us an idea of how stressed we may be. And of course, you can also do meditation while walking also by concentrating on, it could be on any subject, it could be on anything that is giving you a peace of mind. At the same time, allowing your thoughts to not perhaps have as much of movement as generally they might be. The first step would be to find out what are the thoughts that are coming to your mind. Make a list of that. Number 2, what are the reasons that are behind these thoughts? Is it because of people? Is it because of health? Is it because of other distractions in the environment? Is it because of marriage relationships? Find out. And the 4th thing would be to write with complete logic and lack of emotion on how you can solve it. Now, I'm not trying to be very hurtful here, but for an example, I'm not talking about her. For example, if supposing there is a lady or a man in an abusive relationship. Now, this abuse can, over a period of time, start affecting people even physically. Not just, of course, the obvious physical hurt they experience from physical abuse, but even if it is emotional abuse or verbal abuse, people's health starts getting affected. So in other words, she will need to look at all these areas, prepare a list, and then think of ways to find solution. In what way are you reacting to situations? Do you find yourself forgetting things? Do you find yourself getting angry quickly? Do you find yourself feeling very sad? Try to find out those reasons, because that will also help you to be more mindful. Take a break from social networks sometimes. That's helpful. You're just getting into a certain disconnection. Okay? And of course, what can help you to be more mindful? For example, music. Maybe it's painting. Maybe it's sports. How can we practice the basics of mindfulness? The first thing would be to set aside some time for yourself. Some time. I know it's difficult for parents, especially who are facing the challenge of bringing up children with special needs. However, please see if you're able to set aside some little time for yourself. Be present. Be always conscious of right now, at this moment, this second. And of course, avoid, as I mentioned, being judgmental. Let people lead the life that they do. In other words, we can guide them, but we have to accept that you may not be able to change them. Change has to come from within. And of course, being kind to your mind. How kind are you to yourself? I want all of you to concentrate on that, because many of us are not kind to ourselves. We might be kind to others, but we might be the greatest critic that we have, and that doesn't help. Be a kind critic. And of course, I think when I mentioned try to meditate, which of course I think we will have it in another session, Sonia, so I won't get into that. And of course, if we are going to practice mindfulness, be aware of the five senses. Be aware of that. Be aware of breathing. Be aware of thoughts. Be aware of what you're eating. Be aware of what you listen. Be aware of the environment that you are a part of. So in other words, if we talk about how mindfulness can help us, mindfulness can actually help us to regulate emotions, manage stress and anxiety, enhance attention, and be less critical about the world we are in and be more proactive. So in other words, if you find something is wrong, you ask yourself, can I do something about it? Can I help out? Rather than just sit back and say, oh, that is just a waste. Look at the situation there. No. Ask yourself what you can do.